17. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Joseph York.
Here.
Paul Rad.
Here.
David Key, absent. David Keane.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Garvin, absent. Ron Carmichael.
Here.
Okay, item 3 is presentation of any town council recommendations. None that I know of. Recognitions, excuse me. Gee, I guess we're all having rough days, you know? We're not. Item 4, consider minutes of previous meetings.
I didn't send you any.
Item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. First one being a weekly construction summary. Susan?
Yes, we have two reports here, one dated February 24th and one dated March 3rd, which cover work that's ongoing at the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. We had our most recent meeting on this, monthly meeting, yesterday. Things still continue to go well and are anticipated to be on time. We had some correspondence a week ago with DEP, and there was some misunderstanding on their part of completion dates and compliance deadlines, etc., but those have been resolved and we're fine.
Okay. Any questions? Go on to item B, Down East Transportation for February ridership.
Yes, that is the monthly report for ridership for the bus and the cab.
Any questions?
February, sorry.
Okay. Item C, Norma Grindle ambulance donation.
Yes, we had a very generous donation from Ms. Grindle for the ambulance. I wrote a thank you letter to her on the part of the council and turned the information over to the fire EMS department, and I believe they also have made contact to thank her for her very generous donation to our department. And it was receipted into the reserve account rather than just regular revenue, so that it would not lapse at year end, that it would remain in the reserve designated for ambulance for some specific purchase.
Item D, ISO rating update.
Yes, our fire chief is here also, but our rating has improved. It's gone from a 5 to a 4. The lower you go, the better it is. Chief Bowden, would you have 1 second to sort of put that into a little blip about what this means? What it is it should result in an improvement in fire insurance premiums for those who carry them in Bucksport with this, both for those out back and those in town.
ISO is Insurance Service Offices, and they set the benchmark for what most insurance companies use to determine what your insurance premiums will be as a homeowner. There's separate ratings for hydrant district versus up to 5 miles out of town. Our old rating was a 5. It's been improved to a 4, and we're only a couple points away from getting it into a 3. Depends upon your insurance carrier, but typically a 1-point improvement will be 8 to 10% premium reduction, which for a lot of people is several $100s a year, every year. The rural district up to 5 miles went from a class 9 to a 4Y, which is an 8B, and you don't have to pay any attention to any of that. It just means it also improved the full classification. So anyone within the 5-mile district. And they've also created a 5 to 7 miles from a station, and we're working with them now to see if everything that we have fits into that. So it won't just be a 5-mile restriction, it'll be up to a 7-mile. Beyond 5 miles from a station has typically been considered no fire protection in a Class 10, and that can double or triple your insurance. So if everything fits into place in the 5 to 7 mile district, that would, and we're allowed to use automatic mutual aid companies, fire, Orrington and Olin, Dedham. And if we fall into the 7 mile category and can get that rating, about 98% of the homes in Bucksport would be covered by one of them. So we're working with them to see where we fall in that. But 2 regular categories have improved a full point. We've been working towards that for several years.
Does this reflect the fact that we are putting smoke detectors in all the homes, or has that been figured in this, or is that another opportunity?
It was figured into that. It's actually a new category, community prevention education efforts. You can get 5.5 points for those efforts, and we've got just under 4 points, I think, for that category. And so that was figured into this.
Okay.
The final review, I think I did with them in December, so we did talk about that project. It looks at fire protection capabilities, your equipment, training, record keeping, everything to do with it. Looks at communications, dispatch and RCC. It looks at the water supply, the local water company versus out back, and then they added the new community protection. So,
is this something that homeowners has to go do on their own, or insurance companies automatically look at it?
it's effective June 1st of this year, so it won't take effect until June. I talked to Terry Grindle today, and he's already writing policies out into June right now, so he wanted the information to look at. And it depends upon your carrier.
So most people should probably at least contact their insurance company if they
If
want
you
to look
don't,
at it.
yeah, I would recommend you check with your
Okay.
insurance agent and see if they're aware. I'm sure if our rating went down, your insurance carrier would make
They
note
know
of it.
about it, right?
But where it went up, they may not be as quick to notice it.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, item E, Hannaford Bag for a Cause program.
We were notified that Bucksport Fire and EMS is the April recipient of the Hannaford Cause Bag Program, and for every reusable bag with the Good Karma message that's sold at Hannaford in Bucksport, Bucksport Fire and EMS will receive $1 during the month of April. So that's another good thing for the support of our department.
Item F, Main Street Bucksport, letter of support for the YMCA proposal.
You have in your packet a letter from Main Street Bucksport supporting the idea of the town looking at or going to a contracted recreation program with YMCA.
Okay, item 6 is new ordinances to be considered or introduced. I don't believe we have any. Item 7, discussion items, manager's clarification and direction or council discussion or input on the issues. First one being appointments committee recommendations for 2017 appointments. Mr. Carmichael.
Yes, we looked at the appointments. We have a number of vacancies. People have either left or resigned. Town manager is going to put out some ads and try to fill those vacancies, so we'll advertise between now, and we'd like to table the appointments approval until the end of the next meeting.
Okay, that's down here at the end of the agenda items. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public on that? Okay, no, we'll go to item B, trash hauling proposal, capital funding.
There's an item further down in the agenda for approval. This is just a chance to talk about it a little bit in terms of, you discussed several months ago the idea of the Public Works Highway Department doing the hauling for trash hauling. And since that discussion, I've had conversations with our current hauler, who indicates that he's in favor of the town taking over this, primarily because the number of halls is so much lower than when he first started doing it, that it's not working out to be financially feasible for him to continue that, and is supportive of the idea of ending that contract with the town and allowing the town to take over this process. And at the time we talked about doing it, we talked about finding a vehicle that would be able to haul the trailer, and in the middle of all this, one of our trailers sustained some significant issues. I'm going to say it that way. It came apart when we went to pull it, I guess is the best way to phrase it. And so, in order to make this proposal move forward, we would need to acquire the truck and repair one of our trailers that is, and it's taken some time to find anyone to repair the trailer because of what it is and how it is. We have Matt, our mechanic here, and Jay, our public works director, who can give you the technical details about what happened to it. But the bottom line is that in order to move forward in any way, that we would need to acquire the truck and repair the trailer. And there's an agenda item further on, and the request is to take that money out of the funds that had been set aside to build the building at the transfer station that you never built. You had $55,000 that was set aside for a recycling building that we put out for bid that came back too high, and those funds remain there. This would use $12,299 to acquire the truck, approximately $10,000 for repairs to the trailer, and a small cushion of $3,000 for any additional work that needed to be done to the truck to make it do everything it's supposed to. Have I left anything out of this, Matt? Jay? Anyway, that is the proposal, and the reason it's here now is that in order to get everything ready so that within the next 60 days that we can be doing our own hauling is the proposal, and that if we do this, I can prepare a budget based on us doing this ourselves, which is significant savings to transfer station costs.
I think another important thing too is now that we're doing zero sort, the need for that building is non-existent now, so utilizing that money for other improvements in the operation is...
We will
I
have
think the right
so
thing to
much
do.
more flexibility. We have staff with the right licenses to be able to do these hauls when necessary for the town, at the town's convenience. It will, and when it's full, not when it's almost full, those kind of things. That kind of thing will make it much more efficient, because the number of hauls for recyclables, which others do anyway, is going up, so the trash hauls are going down.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
If the trailer needs to be replaced instead of repaired, is that something that can be added into the budget, or are you?
That's $70,000.
$70,000.
We're looking to fix it.
Yeah.
These trailers should give us several more years, if it's, which is why I wouldn't recommend spending almost $10,000 on a trailer unless the option was, alternative was $70,000 for a new one, which
Okay.
is, but as I said, even finding someone who was able or to do the kind of repairs that were necessary was very difficult. They had to do some hunting to get a price and get this so that we could utilize what we're continuing to do. And the plan is for truck and trailers to last a number of years, not to be, but since we are doing this as our first time and working on it, going out and spending $70,000 on a new trailer while we work out the kinks out of this did not seem to be the right way to approach it either.
Well, this also will give us time to put a little bit into that reserve
Reserve.
account to build up to buy that trailer, you know,
when it's
when it's
necessary.
necessary.
Perfect.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I've just been adding another whole load of chores. I'm a little tired. Jim Morrison, Bucksport. Didn't we just get rid of a truck out of the Public Works? We just replaced the truck, correct?
Yes, we did.
At that time, did we know we were gonna need a different truck?
I think we're talking different things here, Jim.
This isn't the same kind of truck.
No.
Jay, could you?
The equipment that's on the truck we're looking to buy is different altogether than what was on the truck we had.
What are you referring to as equipment?
The ability to pump and the fifth wheel and all that, you can put into the trailer.
And it wouldn't have been cost effective to transfer that onto this truck that you got rid of and rig that up for that purpose?
We were allowed almost $20,000 trade-in for the truck we got rid of,
Mhm.
and this truck is costing $12,000.
Okay.
So in the end, we're actually gonna be a little bit ahead by going this way.
Yep, okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go on to item C, committee structure update. That's the ordinance committee.
Well, Susan was gonna look, we're still working on it.
That's right. There's a request for a meeting, the ordinance committee to review the thing before the next council meeting.
All right, we'll go on to agenda items.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Before we leave this, and because we have a fellow in the audience tonight, if we could just do two more committees while we're on this section here, that'd be okay with you?
Yeah,
Just to talk about?
That's
Okay.
fine.
First off, I'm the representative on the Bucksport Bay Healthy Community Coalition, and on that, it was requested that we go into a sustainability workshop, and we'll talk more about that later under the manager's report as to what that's all about, and I invited, because it's an issue of funding, I invited the town manager, and she accepted, came in, and has taken action on that in a very positive way, but that'll be in her report. The second thing is that I chaired for Mr. Key the Economic Development Committee meeting. Peter was also at that meeting. During the session, we had a presentation by Revision Energy, Andrew Carey, who's with us tonight, and if I can summarize real quick, this has to do with solar panels being installed here for our electric usage, and he did some preliminary work, kind of a sketch of putting panels up on the entire highway barn, and based his discussions carrying on from there, but there was a lot of information given. Their company works primarily in northern New England, can provide financing and grants, knows where the money is, and so forth. And 2017 is a very important year for that. Some very interesting things came out of the presentation that Andrew made. And in fact, this is not an off-the-grid kind of situation. It's with their company, the panels are warranted for like 25 years, will typically last to about 40 years if they're taken care of. And they don't feed into batteries, they actually feed into the electrical system. If the weather is bad or snow covered and so forth, we'd be on central main power. If not, then we'd be using the solar panels for energy. And correct me if I misspeak, Andrew, but basically they come along and 9 meter points within town. For example, the solar panels could be mounted on top of the highway building, or the fact that we have a better location with the landfill that has now been capped over 15 years, the panels could be put out on there. And the electrical distribution can basically be put to any 9 meter locations in the town. Could come down here to the municipal building, highway, transfer station, et cetera, et cetera. So the payback, this is not a inexpensive proposition. You're looking at 6 figures easily for some of this stuff. The payback typically runs 20 to 25 years. It's a grid tie-in system, and it gets involved with net energy billing. So that's kind of the overview. The first 6 years would be putting us in a revenue neutral position, but years 6 through 25, we could be getting some real benefit out of it. So the Economic Development Committee liked very much what we heard. Everyone came along and said that it would make sense to see if we could go forward with this. Andrew's company, Revision Energy, has the ability to get into site assessment, create load profiles based upon our electric usage around town and the different facilities and so forth. I failed to ask you the last time what if there's a fee associated with that assessment and so forth, Andrew, but I've tried to capture the high points as we understood it. How did I do?
You did very well.
Can we answer any questions? He's traveled a long way tonight. I thank you for letting me bring it up now so he can get back home at a decent hour. But
You indicated at the beginning, grants, towns typically go out for grants for this.
Andrew, if you'd like to come up to the podium and maybe answer some questions. On the podium, we're broadcasting out on cable TV and other things, so that's why we asked you.
Introduce yourself, because there's a camera. And
Andrew Carl, Revision Energy. Thank you to the Select Board for having me out tonight and giving me a moment. And thanks for your question. The arrangement that we typically make with municipalities in the state of Maine is with a power purchase agreement rather than a grant. In that arrangement, there is an investor, and sometimes it's Revision Energy that's that investor, and sometimes we use a third-party investor. Paul had indicated a 20 to 25-year payback for the equipment and the installation that's involved with these systems, and that is the case for a turnkey purchase of these systems without taking advantage of any of the tax benefits that are involved with solar electric systems. And the power purchase agreement is a way for a commercial entity to make that investment in the system and have an opportunity to recoup the tax benefits that are available, which represent roughly 50% of the cost of the system. That monetization of the tax benefits takes a period of 6 years because part of it is accelerated depreciation. And then in year 7, the town would begin to have an annual option to purchase the system at roughly 50% of the initial installation cost, which then reduces the payback period of the system to more like 10 to 15 years.
how does this work now? Because I think the state just changed how solar panels can go into the grid or whatever now, and I'm not sure exactly how that law change would affect this.
Yeah, great question. For those who aren't familiar with net billing practices, the solar panels are producing power when the sun is out. At times when the facility where the solar panels are located is using power, the electricity being produced by the panels will flow down into that facility and feed the loads that are currently active. And then whatever is left over after those loads are fed in the facility will flow out onto the electrical grid. For every kilowatt hour that you put out onto the grid, you can take one back for free within 12 months of the production date. So that is net energy billing, and that's been the arrangement between solar power generators and the utility company for years now. The Public Utilities Commission has recently passed a rule change that affects net energy billing. Those customers that install and activate their systems in 2017 will be grandfathered under the existing net energy billing rules for a period of 15 years. Customers that install their systems in 2018 will receive a reduced value for their net energy billing credits. The typical small general service power bill is split into two roughly equal halves. There's the supply cost of the power, and there's the transmission and distribution, or T&D value. What the rule change has changed is that in 2018, customers will still get 100% value for supply, but they'll only get 90% of the value of the T&D charges. So that's roughly a 5% reduction in the value of a net energy billing credit. And that's a process that will continue for customers that install in 2019. For instance, they'll only get 80% of T&D and 100% of supply. So that at the end of 10 years, new customers who are installing solar in, I guess that's 2028, will get 0% for T&D and 100% supply. But those customers that installed in 2017 will still be getting full 100% value for their net energy billing credits.
These are the folks that did the installation at Belfast. If you go by the fire station down there with the array up on top of the fire station, these are the folks that...
Now, you mentioned that there's no batteries involved with this, so actually the only time you're going to be generating electricity is when the sun's out.
Yeah, correct, and that's where the net energy billing credits really make a lot of sense, because for every kilowatt hour that you produce during those sunny times and sending them out to the grid, you're using, in a sense, you're using the grid as a battery, as a way to store those credits until such time as you need them in the future.
But where it would be most beneficial would be at our wastewater treatment facility, and that runs 24/7. So,
However, during the day, when you get into peak times and costs, you could be running off the panels.
Which would be good for the, what is the word I'm looking for? The charge on energy that's based on the peak demand. And
Yeah, so that's a great question. Unfortunately, for medium general service and larger types of bills, the demand charge, which is measured in kilowatts, is not a part of the bill that can be affected by net energy billing credits. And so as a result, oftentimes the first step that we take with municipalities is to gather all of the power bills for the municipality together, take a look at them, see which rates for per kilowatt hour are the highest, and try to aim for offsetting the use on those bills. And sometimes that means setting aside medium general service bills and saying, we're not going to go after that right now. And sometimes it means trying to, out of 9 potential meters, include a large load of small general service bills that pay a higher rate per kilowatt hour, and then 1 medium general service bill or 2 medium general service bills, so that we can aggregate those rates and create a rate that you're paying for your solar power that is below that aggregate rate.
Going forward, I didn't hear if you answered Paul's question. Is this consulting something you do for free?
It is.
So, going forward, it's not going to cost anything for you to look at this and to see where we're at.
That's correct.
To me, that's an easy answer. Why not at least explore it to see where we're at? Because we can talk kilowatts and everything else, but until we see a number attached to it, I don't think it really it doesn't resonate with a whole lot, it doesn't resonate with me at all.
I agree, yeah.
During the presentation, they explained to us that basically they are a all-inclusive. They're not just here to sell panels. They're doing all the interface
yeah,
work with the
yeah.
electric. They are a start with, live with, grow with.
But I still think you need to see a dollar number, just
Oh,
to,
yeah,
just
yeah.
to see,
In
see
fact,
where we're
what got
at.
my attention was Andrew came along and said that he could create a load profile, look at the kind of energy, where it's being used, and so forth, do site assessments and so forth. And also what got my attention, and Rich was also in the meeting, was the fact that they're up to 9 meter points that you can, you know, to the mayor's point, okay, yeah, we've got the treatment plant running during the day, at least during the day, and so forth, we could be taking advantage.
It was interesting last night, did you see the story on the state of Hawaii? You talked about batteries, they're experimenting with Teslas, putting in these huge batteries to take care of that problem, you know, at night or when it's cloudy, that they would store it to the
Yeah.
batteries, and the batteries would feed into
And back to your question, Mr. Mayor, too, about the weather. Andrew was kind enough to kind of put us in perspective about weather conditions and so forth. And it's actually better here than you might, although we've had our blizzards. The way these things are set up and the way they clean so readily, it's...
Another question I have, you know, you talked about, like, the first, one way of financing, the first 6 or 7 years, basically the town doesn't get much out of it, and then we have an option where we can buy the system out for 50% of its value. Well, you were saying, you know, 20 to 25 years is a life expectancy. Well,
No,
you see,
20 to 25 years is still in his thunder. It's the warranty on the panels, but they're good to go for 40 years.
my question, okay, if the warranty runs out after 25 years and they go to hell on us, what is the replacement of just the panels? I mean, the panels must be what? Are they 20% of the cost of the system? Are they 50% of the cost of the system?
Yeah, good question. So, you know, just to clarify again, if you were to purchase the system outright at a turnkey rate without being able to monetize any of the tax benefits, the payback period in that case would be 20 to 25 years. We've installed now over 20 of these power purchase agreements for municipalities in Maine and New Hampshire, and they've all essentially taken this situation where you know, an investor that is a commercial entity, either Revision or a third-party investor that we've engaged, will purchase the system, and so as a commercial entity, they can then monetize a 30% federal tax credit, which is 30% of the installed value of the system, plus accelerated depreciation, which, depending on the tax bracket, is between 20 and 28%, or 25 and 28% of the value of the system, and that takes 6 years to fully monetize. So then in year 7, the option is to purchase the system at roughly half of its initial installation cost, and that at that point going forward, you know, it's often a roughly a 10-year payback at that point. So you've got say 16 years into your system, you own it at that point, and the system has paid for itself by providing a lower rate than what you've been paying for utility power. So essentially, and this is, you know, very rough estimates because it depends on what is the utility rate that you're paying on the meters that we're offsetting, what is the, you know, price per watt of the system, which depends on the details of where that system is, how large it is, and what's, you know, whether it's mounted on the ground or on a rooftop. But say roughly 16 years in, the system is paid for itself, and everything after that is essentially 100% offset cost for the town.
Can you explain who gets the tax credits?
Certainly. So for these PPAs, generally those that are under about 80 kilowatts tend to be purchased and owned by Revision Energy. Revision Energy forms an LLC along with the town of Bucksport to own and operate that solar electric system. For the period of ownership of the investor, the time that the investor owns that system, essentially they are selling the power that the system is generating to the town. Tends to be revenue neutral, roughly. We have, I think, 3 different rate structures that you can choose from in terms of whether you want to choose a flat rate where you pay, say, 15 cents per kilowatt hour on year 1, year 2, year 3, and right down to year 30 if you choose not to purchase the system. And then we also have rates that are more competitive, so that, again, if you didn't purchase the system up front, then it might be revenue positive from year 1 and going forward.
But the investor is the one that gets the tax credits.
Correct, but the town is able to take advantage of those tax credits in the purchase price of the system. So Revision Energy is an installer, fundamentally, and so the reason that we have developed this product, this power purchase agreement, is because we've had a great deal of interest and demand in the nonprofit sector from schools and municipalities. And so we've sought to put a product together that offers solar power at a competitive rate to municipalities, nonprofits, and schools, as well as churches. And so, from the profitability standpoint, we are looking for an opportunity to install a solar electric system. But we are not looking for an opportunity to profit from an investment in that way. Even for the third-party investors who invest in these things, this is, to them, a CD. It's not a stock. This is, a very stable investment, but there's not a lot of growth opportunity there.
Do you have an estimate of how long it'd be before you'd put some type of a monetary figure or package together?
It depends on how quickly we move forward with regards to putting power bills together and starting to do site assessments. But I imagine probably be about a month.
Any other questions, guys? Any questions from anybody out there?
Aren't the people who are generating power anywhere near us, for instance, Perk, out down here at the mill, are they having any trouble selling their power at this point? I mean, if we're going to be generating power with these systems, are we looking at something that the grid's not going to want to have from us, or are we going to end up with all this extra power that's going into the ground, or how does that work?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but this is coming to us primarily as savings, and then whatever extra would go to the grid. So primarily it's...
Someone has to buy that, correct?
Well, so the net billing arrangement is different than wholesale selling of electricity, which is what most power plants do.
But
they sell supply.
But the electricity goes to the grid.
Correct.
I mean, somebody must be buying it.
Yeah. It's it's so the net billing arrangement is mandated by the Public Utilities Commission, and so there's no kind of cash equivalency for the net energy billing credit. It's really 1 kilowatt hour for 1 kilowatt hour. So it's not a purchase by the utility company or anybody else per se. Something else that I would address with regards to that, you'd mentioned Hawaii and grid scale battery storage. Those are technologies that continue to develop, and they're very exciting. And I think, as most people understand, a grid that we can't really imagine a grid that is 100% solar power, because then we would only have electricity when the sun's out, and we would not have it at other times. Maine currently is a daytime peak usage state, and we use more electricity in the state of Maine on sunny summer days than at any other time of the year, when all the refrigeration and the air conditioning is turned on. And that situation is projected to continue to exist until solar power represents about 20% of our statewide generation of electricity. So the fact that we're just above 1% right now means that the solar power really is being produced at the time when it is most needed on the grid. That's the current situation, and hopefully some of those other technologies will.
Because we're primarily a rural state, and we don't have the nighttime activities. In the rest of the country, or at least the urban areas, are there big demands in the evening?
Yeah, that's true. And I, to tell you the truth, I'm not exactly sure why that's the situation.
Except for
Yeah.
obviously the summer, the heat of the summer, when the air conditioning.
Right.
And peak power usually goes until about 8 o'clock at night.
You go to bed.
Well, yeah, people come home, they do their laundry, they cook their meals,
Rich, did you
watch
have
the
something?
TV, and,
The farmer economy.
yeah.
Nope, I'm all set.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Again, the reason you're here also is because that 2017 is a special year for this, is what you're saying. And if it was to happen next year, it would be considerably different on the payoff, the estimated payoff option, right?
I would say it would be marginally different, yes.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's going to be about a 5% loss in terms of the value of the credits generated.
Okay.
So
Each
not
year.
not insignificant, but we'd have to look at the numbers to really know what the impact is going to be.
And one other thing you said was you get 1 kilowatt per kilowatt that you provide, or is it that's provided extra over and beyond of what you use? Is that?
Yeah, so on a momentary basis, say for instance you had solar panels on this building, and it's the middle of the day and there's computers and lights on in here, and say that you're producing less solar power at that moment than is being used in the building. At that point, the solar electric system would power everything in the building that it could power, and then whatever extra was left over would come in from the grid. And that would all be a seamless transition. You wouldn't know, being inside the building, how much was being used from which source at any given time. And then at the end of the month, you get a bill from CMP that has a spreadsheet that reconciles your daily and monthly usage. And so, conversely, if you were using fewer loads in the building and producing more power on the roof, it would power everything that was inside the building first. And then whatever was being produced that wasn't being used in that exact moment would flow out onto the grid. So, at that point you're starting to generate credits slowly. By the same token, if you had, if you chose to install a ground-mounted system, be it on the landfill or another location that was not attached to a facility that used power, then 100% of the kilowatt hours that system generated would flow out onto the grid and generate net energy billing credits, which then you could apply against bills in other locations in the town. And one thing I'll mention, because we discussed the utility district briefly, I've noticed that in a lot of towns, the utility districts bills come in under a different name than the town. It's not necessarily the town of Bucksport that would appear on those bills as the billed entity. And that is one caveat of this group net energy metering situation, is that it's got to be the same entity that's being billed, same address, even if the meters themselves are at different locations.
And one last thing, when you were to put together some kind of system, would this system maybe be able to provide like 110% of what is recommended, or is it going to be more like a 70%, or you try to keep it at as far as the usage for that particular amount?
Yeah, so meaning if we took 9 utility bills and said, this is the amount that we want to
Use 100
generate.
kilowatts.
Yeah.
Do you put something that might produce more like 120 or something like that, or do you kind of just?
Yeah, we generally aim for 100% or maybe even a little shy of 100%, only because if you were to produce 110% of the number of kilowatt hour credits that you were using, that extra 10% would go back to the utility company, and there would be no compensation that would return to the town in any way for those extra credits that were generated. And so essentially you've made an investment in a system that you're not going to be able to see
Maybe
a
more,
return on.
90% of more like.
Yeah, it tends to be safer to shoot just a little bit low so that you're sure to take advantage of 100% of your investment. Yeah.
If you install the panels, say, at the town garage or highway department,
Yeah.
and you can meter in 9 different locations in the community, do you have to run separate power lines from that?
No, CMP will keep track of the net energy billing credits that you're generating there, and you will have filed with them the other meters that you want your credits to be
Okay.
applied against, and told them what percentage of the credits you want to go to this meter and what percentage you want to go to
No,
that
you
meter.
can't put your meter on there.
So there'd be a meter out there that shows everything being produced, and then you kind of add all your usages up at the locations.
Yeah, CMP actually will come and put in a dual meter so that there's one meter that shows power in and one meter that shows power out. And in addition to that, we will put a separate revenue grade meter on there so that you have monitoring capabilities. You could put a link on the town website so that your citizens or any other visitors to the website could click that link and see what the production of that system was at that moment. You've got your own independent understanding of what that system is doing, in case you think there's
Any other
something
questions?
fishy about your CMP bill.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think the Economic Development Committee thought that it would be a good idea to carry forward with this, and tonight where Andrew has stated that, they could do the load profile, the site assessment, and so forth. I thought it would make sense to, when the town manager has a moment, to work back and forth with Andrew and see what the numbers look like. I think that might be the way to proceed.
Especially if it doesn't cost us anything to start.
Do you think that you need anybody else to help with any of that stuff, or is?
Well, he's going to do a profile of this community, and then you'd have to decide what you were going to do following that. But
Yeah.
what I think Council Rabs is discussing is that he needs information that has to be provided by pulling our power bills and doing all that kind of stuff, and then I can take care of that.
I think either Sue or her staff
Yeah.
will be able to come up with that for Andrew, and we can.
Did you have another item, too, you wanted? Are we all
Nope, that
set?
was it.
We're all set, okay. Now we'll go on to the agenda items. Okay, the first one being
Thanks, Andrew.
to adopt Resolve 2017-50 to approve the Route 46 plow contract for 2017-2018 in the amount of $73,626 to McIntyre Trucking and Excavation. Susan?
Yes, we did a contract last year. You had it for a year with an option for a year's renewal with a 5% escalator, which has been applied in this instance. I've talked to our Public Works Director and personnel, who also recommend that we stay with this contract for Route 46.
How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
5% seems like a lot. Do we have to can we put in a number that the council seems fit for the next contract? Because this is an automatic 5%. I don't know if there's anybody getting 5% raises. I live on 46. He does a great job. I'm trying to. In line 15 there, it talks about a contract shall have the option for renewal in March of 2018 with a 5% increase in price. I'd go with the contract, but I think we ought to not have an automatic price increase. I think that's something we ought to be able to negotiate again and talk about.
Is there a number? I mean, it's pretty typical in most contracts that I see with an escalator in them, but maybe not 5. I don't know what the right number is.
I'm just maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's a lease or anything like that.
You mean like go with a CPI or a PPI index as a
Maybe.
multiplier?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how that applies to cost of materials or this type of thing, but in leases and other sorts of contracts I've seen it. There's typically an escalator.
I know when we first started having Route 46 contracted, the highway department said that it was really staving the equipment up. It was time-consuming. They didn't have enough drivers. Main thing, they were changing cutting edges at least once or twice a year. Well, that was, Route 46 has basically been pretty much rebuilt. Can we do it for less than that, Jay? If we did similar to what we used to do, where in the wintertime, we would hire a laid-off driver from one of the other construction companies to work for the highway department just in the wintertime, to do that road.
I think you could hire a full-time employee and be close to that figure as far as paying benefits and everything. But we wouldn't have coverage 24 hours. We would have to have like an extra spare person instead of the 3 we normally hire. We'd have to get another one to cover that run when we do continuous.
Yeah. Well, we used to hire 2 temporary spares just for winter snow plowing.
Right, we have 3 now.
We
Which
do that now.
covers the entire town for a night shift.
Yeah, I thought they were all full-time.
No.
16
Okay.
hours.
Yeah.
We have a limited 3 replaces the 5 that normally
Right.
do the whole town. So to take that run on, I would think you would need a full-time person and another spare.
Now-
So I
now-
don't know as the numbers, I don't know as it would be cheaper.
Now, the state of Maine gives us a certain amount of money to maintain this road, doesn't it? For winter maintenance on it?
That I'm not sure.
I
We
thought
get-
there was.
The only funding that we get from the state is,
For maintenance
it
of the
was
highway.
Europe at one point, and then it was local road assistance money, and it's less than $60,000 a year for everything we do, not just maintenance. That's not just for maintenance of Route 46. There's not a separate contract for that.
Okay, I thought there was a separate sum for Route 46. And if that went up at a certain percentage, that's what we should have based our contract
No,
on.
there's no sum for that.
Yeah,
It's just part of our,
Yeah, this has gone up substantially over the years, but he was the only bidder on it, though. Anyway, we've got a motion and a seconded, right?
No, no second.
Oh, we
I
did
was
get,
asking a question.
Oh, okay,
before I seconded
okay.
it.
do we have a second?
Yeah, I mean, Peter raises the point for the 5%. I'm not sure where the 5% comes from, whether there, there's some sort of figure thrown in with wear and tear on equipment, cost of materials,
I think that was brought up last year, I think.
this was,
This contract.
this contract was done in June of last year, which traditionally you've done them in March prior to, but it was done in June. And there was a fairly substantial adjustment in the contract, which hadn't been, because the first one was there. There was a substantial, there was an increase, and there was, at the time, the request for the contract to include that 5% adjustment at the end of a year. If the council wants to approve this contract, pull that rider or have that listed as a negotiated whatever prior to that, we can do that. I mean, I haven't spoken to Mr. McIntyre about that. This was the proposal that came to the town last year in order to retain the contract. But if you just, the contractor shall have the option for renewal in March of 2018 and take out the 5% and negotiate that at the time.
I would go for that.
yeah, I'd second.
We just eliminate the autumn with a
With an automatic.
with a negotiated
Yep.
increase. Is
Yep.
that,
Yeah.
would that,
That makes me feel better.
And again, it's tough because, like you said, we have to estimate this, and the amount of snowstorms we had this year is different than last year, and vice versa. So it's difficult. Now, you said at nighttime you guys you only have 3 trucks on the road, but you do have 5 or 7. How many trucks do you have? Snowplows do you actually have?
We have 5 runs
5 runs,
and 5 full-time
trucks.
drivers.
All right, so they would actually have an extra truck during the nighttime if they were to take it over. Yeah, that's all I was wondering.
they just wouldn't have anybody to
They got a new highway foreman.
You'd still need another grant because it's over.
Right. We have.
Right, yeah, during the day, of course. yeah.
Right, during the day, right, you wouldn't have the
Yeah.
extra, it's only,
Right,
you'd only at night.
right, unless you adjusted your runs or whatever, made them longer.
Longer,
Yeah,
right.
no, understandable. All right, super.
I mean,
So if we
fuel,
remove that,
where are fuel prices now? Does he use our fuel?
He pays for it.
he pays for it.
Okay. Okay.
I'd second the motion if we took out the
With
increase in price.
5% and made that negotiated.
Please.
Kathy, you got that? Okay. So we do have a motion and a seconded to have the town manager, not necessarily renegotiate, just,
No, it would give him this 73,626 for this year, and if there was going to be a renewal in 2018, then the increase would be negotiated.
okay, all right. Okay, anything further from the public? Sir?
Is that, what you have in your packet, is that the actual contract that
Yes,
he's gonna be under?
yes.
Well, it's pretty much a no-brainer, because if anything happens, it's up to him, he pays for it. There's no way we can, as a municipality, do that for the price he's giving us. Doesn't matter if he does one storm or 20, if something happens, he owns it.
Thank you. Anything further from the council?
Just
Oh,
for future, I just, look, I mean, for future, if we talk about this, the CPI was, like, 2.5%, but, you know, it fluctuates between 2.5 and 4, depending on, you're talking about energy and just, you know, so maybe a little less than what we're looking at.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, to adopt resolve R 2017-51 to approve payment requisition number 18 for the sewer treatment plant project in the amount of $19,993.25 to Oliver Engineering for invoice 8,000 and $125,196.70 to Apex for payment application number 18 for a total of $145,189.95 to be paid out of the grant funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item C, to adopt resolve R 2017-52 to approve the abatement of $540.44 in real estate taxes, interest, and fees, and $1,895.23 in sewer tax and interest and fees for the former Richard Gaynor mobile home formerly located at 82 Elm Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the abatement. Any further from the public? From the council?
And this was the one that was removed, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that we got
This
rid
is
of.
the one that was foreclosed that
Yeah.
we didn't have to demolish, that somebody took off the premises.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item D, to adopt resolve R 2017-53 to approve the abatement of $1,623.11 in personal property tax and interest for Wilson Express Tire and Lube formerly located at 42 US Route 1.
This is a personal property account that has not been on the books for now 3 years, but it's not there. There's new construction going on there, and this is an uncollectible amount.
You know, this was something that had been out there for a long time and couldn't prove whether the personal property was there or not when Mr. Wilson left the location.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the abatement. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item E, to adopt resolve 2017-54 to approve the use of $12,299 in transfer Station capital funds for the purchase of a 2,000 Mack for use in hauling solid waste, and the use of up to 12,000 from the transfer station capital funds for repairs to one of the town trash hauling trailers.
Motion to approve.
How much money did we have? Didn't we have like 50,000 there to begin with? And how
55,
much have we spent?
nothing.
Oh, I thought we bought.
We didn't
We didn't use that to help buy the zero sort thing.
Zero Sort didn't cost us anything to do
I thought
that.
there was something involved with some of this. If we didn't, that's fine.
The skid steer,
The
I'm
skid steer,
sorry.
yeah. Okay, I thought we'd spent some money on
Yes,
something
some
out
of
of
it,
that. Yeah.
that was original, but
Okay.
this is within the amount that's,
Was this separate from, was that all part of the same fund, even though it was some of it was designated for that building?
It was all for that.
It's all part of that reserve account,
Yes.
okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public?
I got one other thing too. So, when does the contract end? Is it July 1st or June 30th?
the contract actually ends at the end of next June,
Okay,
but Mr. Eastman has indicated that
go ahead and cut the contract.
cut the contract.
As
Yes.
soon as we-
As soon as the town is ready to go, he's
Okay.
ready to not do it. His actual words that it was costing him more insurance than he was making
was.
in
Okay.
keeping this, because
So
it's now.
as soon as Jay and you guys are ready to go, then we'll just cut the contract and we'll start into it. So we're not going to be out. We're not going to have to pay the
There's no,
excess of the contract.
there's no penalty in this
Okay.
because he's
Yep.
concurs with it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item F, to adopt resolve 2017-55 to approve the sale of surplus highway and transfer station equipment to the highest bidder.
Motion to approve. Just paid for our Mack truck, didn't we?
No, we have a sander to Justin Clapper for $713, the balers from the transfer station to NEPW Logistics for $5,000, the skid steer to Kevin Gay for $5,757.57, and the forklift to Haas Trucking for $3,600.
Second.
And will this go back into the equipment reserve account?
It will, the sander and the forklift will go into Public Works, and the balers and the skid steer will go into transfer station.
So we did just buy a truck with it.
What's that?
So we almost bought the truck with that, right?
We almost bought the truck. That's right.
Yeah, these winning bids total $15,000 within a few dollars.
Okay, did we have a motion?
Second,
Yeah. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public, council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item G, adopt resolve 2017-56 to approve the 2017 appointments as recommended by the appointment committee.
I think we're going to table that, right?
Right. Motion to table?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this until the next council meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 9, resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections. We don't have anything. Item 10, approve quitclaim deeds and discharges of deeds. I believe do we have some of those?
No.
No.
We just took care of the one from last
Right,
time.
okay. Okay, item 11, town manager's report.
The town had its follow-up inspection for designation as part of the Maine Department of Labor SHAPE program. This designation helps lower the town's workers' comp premiums and keeps the town exempt from Department of Labor inspections as long as that SHAPE designation is maintained. I want to thank Chief Bowden for spearheading this project and to all the departments doing all the work it took to meet the program requirements. We did very well. She was very pleased with her follow-up inspection. As Council Rabs noticed, Earlier, I met with representatives from the Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition, the town, and the Chamber of Commerce to discuss funding issues that Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities is having in regard to the very important Thriving in Place program that they operate to assist senior citizens in staying in their homes as they age. Funding for the past 3 years for this program has been through a state program that has indicated it will no longer provide funding. What we did was reach out to our state senator and representatives to ask for assistance in setting up a meeting with DHHS to discuss continuation of this critical program. I wrote a letter to our legislative delegation and have requested a meeting hopefully by the end of March with the head of DHHS to find out. There is some funding available in that department if there's some way that it can be accessed to continue this program that many people depend on. We had a successful organizational meeting on February 28th for the $200,000 EPA grant that the town will be working on with Eastern Maine Development Corporation over the next 2 years. The grant begins on April 1st. I'm encouraged by the enthusiasm and the energy that was present at the meeting, and also by what we learned about additional funding that is available to assist in areas not covered by the grant. And just this afternoon, I received an email from Hancock County Planning, an engineer who works with them, who indicated that we are eligible for an additional $175,000 in assistance for that site that we will be applying for, and it's not competitive. It's they've already had discussions with the EPA, and that $175,000 for some of those additional things that we talked about for that site can be coming here. So that application will be going forward, and that work is done directly by the EPA and their staff, but it is in relation to mitigation of anything negative on the site. So it's another $175,000, and that's good news. That's money we don't have to find, or AIM doesn't have to find for that cleanup. So sewer liens will be placed on Monday for unpaid sewer bills for the second and third quarters of 2016. The 30-day notices went out just about 30 days ago, so those will be going out. And then I'm requesting a meeting of the sewer committee to discuss staffing options for the treatment plan and a review of the comparison between the contract that we looked at some time ago, which would be going up if we stay with Maine Water for that because of the need for an additional person, and whether it would be better for the town to hire the person themselves and continue with that oversight model. But if we could have that prior to the next council meeting, that would be great. And finally, I attended a meeting in Orono this afternoon for another follow-up to the Economic Development Advisory Team visit that was here through Maine Forest Products. And we've been requested to provide information to the University of Maine in regard to 2 companies that may be interested in locating on this site as well. So those meetings continue to be productive.
Any questions?
I just, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Peter.
I just want to acknowledge, the other departments all put in reports for us every meeting also, and there's a lot of good things going on, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge that, and if folks are out there, make sure they're reading those, and if they see the folks that are out there working for the town, to give them a pat on the back, because they're really doing some good work out there. So thanks.
Yes, sir. Go
To the
ahead.
top of the page, the SHAPE program,
Yes.
that the work that was done and our departments did for this Maine Department of Labor, isn't that good now for 5 years?
I believe it's 2 years.
It's 2 years, but
then if
as
you keep up with it,
you
then it
keep
goes
your
to 4.
certification up, it's good for as long as you keep your certification.
Right.
And in order to keep that certification, you have to attain a whole lot of certain standards, and that's everything from your injury rate to records maintenance, training, blah, blah, all of those kind of things. But we have gone through enough so that we now qualify for that designation, which in itself is something hasn't been done before, so.
Any other questions? Okay, financial reports?
Yes, you have in your packets the revenue and expense through the end of February. There's nothing
We
crazy.
still
that
solvent?
We're solvent. Budgetarily, we're solvent. The month of February was a bit hard on Public Works, to say the least, in terms of thing, but not so hard that we're, have overdrawn overtime or done anything of that. We were fortunate to get good things like good salt prices and things this past year, and very good fuel prices, which have, even though we've used a bunch, have kept our expenditures well within what we were looking at. Otherwise, our excise tax continues to, we had upped that this year, and we're still running ahead on that, which is a positive venue. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, our county tax, which this year is $266,000 and change, is going down to, $282,000, is dropping $96,000 for next year. So that's
Where are we with ambulance runs?
we're doing well. I say we're doing well. Actually, we're running them off their feet, if that makes any difference. There's a grant application in for the same one for the two positions that we did before last year and didn't get.
Any questions? No, we'll go on to item 12, set public hearings or hold public hearings and approval of any licenses or permits. I believe we have one license here. We have to hold a public hearing on this too, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
After this one, you won't have to with the new ones that go into effect. Up to you if you want to hold a public hearing with them.
Okay, this is going to be a public hearing for Bucksport Golf Club for renewal of a full-time liquor license and special amusements. Declare the public hearing open. Any comments? If not, I'll close the public hearing. And how would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the renewal of full-time liquor license special amusement permit for Bucksport Golf Club. Any further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. We don't have to set any public hearings.
Coming up.
Okay. Item 13, discussion items not on the agenda for the council and the public. We'll start with the public. Any discussion items out there?
Good evening. I just have a couple of quick updates from my office, Rich Rotella, Community and Economic Development. First off, I wanted to thank Terry Hollowell, the owner of 81 Main Street and 83 Main Street. You may know those as Huckleberries and Studio 83. She's taken advantage of the grant program the town council generously gave us and has put 2 handicap rails, one for each of the business, to make their business easier to access for our citizens. Secondly, I'd like to let everyone out in TV land know that Bucksport Heart and Soul will be holding its farm, food, and flowers at the Heart and Soul building this Sunday, March 12th at 2 p.m. Main Street, Bucksport.
What is that, Rich?
That will be a chance to come share your stories of why you feel the urge to dig in the earth when the days grow longer and the sun shines warmer, and listen to others share stories of growing. What are your hopes and dreams for growing and eating local as Bucksport grows into its future? And come sample some local produce. This is between the Bucksport Heart and Soul and the Farmers Market. Main Street Bucksport Bridge the Gap race There's already a lot of entrance into that already. Over 300 already. Typically draws about 500. The race will be ending in downtown Bucksport for the first time. One route will have runners coming in off of the waterfront up, ending almost in front of this building, and the other route will end in the opposite direction as well. So they'll both end at the same place. That, again, is going on April 9th, and the race will start at 10 a.m. I did have a chance to leave Bucksport and go to Augusta for a meeting. There I met with the state treasurer, and she would like everyone to know that the state treasury may be holding some money for you. I looked for giggles, and there were quite a bit of people from Bucksport who have money that the state is holding for them. You can search by your name or by the town of Bucksport at www.maine.gov/upsearch. UPSEARCH. For the Chamber of Commerce, they have their annual meeting Tuesday, April 4th at 5 o'clock, and that will be held at the Alamo Theater. And I believe that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Any other discussion items from the public? Yes, sir.
Someone else has jumped off the bridge. Yeah, everybody knows that. It's pretty much been in the news. We kind of have pretty good view of that, and I think there's probably going to be a pretty darn good festival coming up here in the summertime. I would hate to think that my grandkids might be wandering around down there and someone take advantage of the fact that we're all down on our riverfront and leap off that bridge. Is there anything at all that this town can do to push the state into doing something about it?
Good question.
I thought it was. That's why I'm asking it.
We could write a letter to them.
Could I?
See if
Yeah.
there's any plans or talk to our representatives to see if there's any plans.
Should I sign it Jim Morrison Bucksport, or should I just
No.
sign
No,
it Jim
we'll
Morrison?
take it. We'll take
I'd be
care
happy
of
to call that. I don't know if the chief has any information on what the state does for that. I know.
I know that the subject's been brought up a lot. I don't know that they have any plans whatsoever at this point to do that. I know the first time they talked about it, they were talking like $1 million to put up a fence of that type, and I haven't heard any more on it, so.
Cheaper to put an armed guard on the damn thing, you know?
Well, there's other options these days. They can do fences, they can, was in San Francisco, they put the big net underneath. There's different approaches they can take, but
Yeah, that, I'd like to see that. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, any other discussion items from the public? Council? Any discussion items? Yes, sir.
Do we have any update on Fiber Right? I see them in the news asking for money, and where does that
They're
stand?
asking for access to funds. They're not asking for state money. They're asking for access to that. But they're waiting. Their permitting is done. They're waiting for the judge in the lawsuit that PERC has filed to make a decision, which is anticipated to be this month in March, in order to complete financing and move forward. The financing is in place. It's waiting for that decision.
So do we still think that they'll be online in time for, is that the plan?
That's still the plan.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other discussion items? Yes, sir.
I have a question, and it has to, going back to the reports from code enforcement officer. You know, over the course of a few months ago, this couple came in from Outer Bucks Mills Road, and the issue was the RV out there running a generator and so forth, and landowner, but it's only supposed to be on a temporary basis. And, you know, I went to Bangor again today, and there it sits still out there, and I don't see anything. Has this been addressed, or is this to be addressed? I've read the code enforcement officer's report, and I just don't see anything about what's to happen out there.
It's not currently being occupied, and the last report in regard to that was that if anyone were to be utilizing it in the coming season or whatever, that it wouldn't be a generator power hookup. It would have.
So it has to have a
it would
pole
have
power
It would have pole power.
going
as the
forward.
hookup, yes.
I went and spoke with the Johnsons. They intend to litigate what's going to be taking place. They're going to go to court with it.
Any other items? If not, let's go on to item 14, upcoming public hearings, designation of topics for committee assignments and scheduling committees. First one being ordinance committee.
I would say, how many meetings we've set up on that last Thursday, or that last meeting?
Well,
Or is this something you're working on anyway, right?
this is what I was going to
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
prior to that next one, to you at that next one, so it could come to the council
Okay.
following that. So probably a half an hour would be,
Okay, so let's say 6 o'clock.
or you could say 6:30, and the sewer
Can go at
committee
6.
could go at 6 o'clock.
Okay,
so that-
that's fine.
Okay, so you got sewer and ordinance on the 30th. You also have, now this recreation committee meeting is going to be Wednesday,
Next Wednesday,
Okay.
4:30.
but we won't have a full committee on that.
We'll be down one because
Okay.
of the
Yeah. Okay.
resignation, but otherwise. the
Thursday?
committee- Wednesday.
But that will be open to the public, all of them will be open to the public.
Anything we do is open to the
I
public.
just wanted to make a reminder that our first budget is next Thursday at 6.
That's right. How many of you do I have here next Thursday at 6?
Next Thursday?
Paul will be back.
Paul would be back.
Next
I'll be
Thursday.
here.
No, I'm not here.
No, I was going to say you're gone and he's gone.
Paul's here.
I'm going, no, I'm not going to miss any. I'm going to miss one of the budget ones, which I think is
The 23rd,
23rd.
because the council is the 30th.
Yeah, I'll be back for that.
The recreation committee, is that going to be here or is it at the school?
Here.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got sewer at 6 and ordinance at 6:30 on the 30th.
Yep.
And we've got the recreation committee meeting with the Y proposal this coming Wednesday.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think that's the 15th. Is that the 15th?
Yes.
Is there anything else we got to put on there? Okay, if not, we'll go to item 15.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
That recommended meeting here.
That's pretty.